Sitting throwing rocks across the pavement, hoping it will cave in and swallow me whole. Wonder why my mind.
Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. To get started today, we are learning how to make hoodies in Blender. So here's a hoodie I made for this character. And yeah, this involves cloth simulation and sewing. Just a little precursor before we get started. Make sure you have a character ready in a T-pose, and also that character is preferably rigged already if you plan on changing the position and pose of the character. So to get started, first let's head over here into just our normal viewport shader, and let's just make, I'm gonna hide a couple things so we can see our character better, and I'm gonna head to frame 0 because that is where my T-pose begins. So actually, to get started making this character, we're gonna do Shift A, Mesh, Cube. Then we're gonna do G, Z to raise that cube up. At this point, you're kind of deciding where you want the bottom of your hoodie to be. Do you want a baggy hoodie? I might make a baggy hoodie just for fun because I already had more of a nicely fitting hoodie. So we're gonna have our baggy hoodie just be around this area. And I don't want any collisions with my hips, but we'll take care of that at a later point. Okay, so now that it's forward, we're gonna do Tab. We want to just select this top face and hit E to extrude it upward. Just right around there, and then literally we're just gonna hit E again to extrude it up one more time. Like right over the head. I'm gonna hold Alt and select these lines, and we're just gonna try and even this out a bit. Somewhere around right there. So the next step we wanna do is we want to extrude out these arms. So I'm going to hit Control R to add a loop cut right down the center back here. And you might not have to do all this stuff exactly depending on the shape of your character. For instance, you might not even have to do a loop cut and just be able to extrude out. So now I'm gonna add another loop cut, and now we've got a nice little square here where the arms are at. And you can do this a couple different ways. I find the easiest way would just be to hit E, S, X, and that makes it so basically all those hotkeys just extrude along the X axis. And I want a really baggy hoodie, so I'm gonna do right around there. That looks pretty good. So now what we wanna do is try and get the squares of our hoodie to be like we've got these squares. Let me hide this rig. We want these squares to be roughly all the same shapes. Like we have a lot of rectangles. So actually, before we do that though, let's also head down here, and I've got both these bottom faces selected that are connecting with the hips, and I'm just gonna hit SX and extrude that out a little bit, like right around there. I can see that that is also colliding with the back there. So I'm gonna hit GY, take it back, and SY. So you see we're kind of blocking out the rough shape of our character. Like right around there is fine. I don't see any major collisions happening. Okay, so now we're trying to make squares. So that's still roughly a square. These are two rectangly. So we're gonna hit Control R and just start making a bunch of loop cuts to make large squares. So I'd say that this side is done with the squares. Those are all roughly the same size. Those are all roughly the same size. And now the arms, you want to have the same amount of loop cuts. So I'm gonna hit maybe 4. Let's actually try 3. So then I'd hit Control R, 3, and 3 more loop cuts. And then you're done. I'm just kidding. Okay, so now that we have this very blocky hoodie, we're gonna want to add some more divisions into it. But before we do that, to make our lives a little easier, we're gonna delete a couple faces. So the faces we're gonna delete are hold Shift and select where your actual hood cutout will be. Then we're gonna head over here where any appendages are coming out of the hoodie, and also down here where the hoodie ends. And I'm going to hit delete and faces. So now we're going to hit A. Make sure you are in face select mode and not edge select or vertice select. Then we're going to right click and subdivide, right click, subdivide, right click, subdivide. So we're going to want to go pretty small in our subdivisions for the hoodie. Somewhere around there is close. And for now, because we're going to end up messing with the geometry a bunch, we'll leave it right there. And if we need to make it even smaller, we will. So let's leave it there for now. Okay, then make sure your hoodie is selected. Up here in your various different tabs, let's head over to sculpting. Now I've got my hoodie here, and I want to make sure I edit both sides at the same time. So I'm going to head up upper right hand corner to mirroring and hit X. And that will just make it so it mirrors the X axis. So now guys, we are going to just smooth out some of these harsh edges of our hoodie. So you'll see I'm not worrying too much about the shape yet. I just want to smooth it out so it's a little bit better. And you'll see we're already getting much closer to a hoodie shape as we do this. The real magic is going to be the seams, but this step helps a lot. So now wherever I've kind of see my characters protruding out a little bit, I want to just take the grab brush over here and select that, and then just kind of pull in the different areas. And you can also select X-ray mode, and I can see I need to probably go a little closer in here. So I'm going to do that as well. I'm going to go a little closer in some areas because it wouldn't make sense if the hoodie was baggy in certain places. So arms are pretty good already, but we do want the little thumb to be able to come out, and maybe these arms are a little wonky right there. And I'm dragging in, I know we're going for a baggy hoodie, but you'll find dealing with cloth simulations that you have to still have them be pretty close even when dealing with a baggy situation. Let's work on the back a bit and bring this down and try and maybe make this more of an actual hoodie shape, like an actual hood. And let's see how we're looking. Now is we're gonna actually do some more smoothing. So head over and select your brush smoothing tool. I usually have my strength on it like around 0.5, but you can adjust that as you need. And I'm just going to smooth out some of these rough areas. And we're going to smooth it out even if it goes inside of the mesh, because there's a pretty easy way of fixing that. So right around there is pretty good. Now we're going to grab the inflate tool and we're going to just inflate a couple of these areas so it's not actually colliding, like so. And literally I'm just kind of going circular motions and dragging it around. So this hood already to me looks pretty good, especially if we're going for a baggy hoodie. I am going to adjust this collar area a little bit because I want it to be a little bit more open like that. But I like where it's at so far. Okay, head back over to layout, and now we're going to do the fun part that's actually going to make it look even more like a hoodie. So once you're finished getting your sculpted hoodie roughly into the shape you want, head back over here to layout, select that hoodie that we just sculpted and hit tab. So now we're going to add some seams. This will really help to actually make this look even more like a hoodie. So what we're going to do is hoodies have cuffs. So I know that the cuffs, it's kind of up to your interpretations. You can have little short cuffs like around here. And to select these faces, how I'm doing it, hold Alt on your keyboard and then select a face, and it should just select all the faces in that area. So I'm going to select right around there for that cuff seam. head back over here. I did 3 width on that side, so I'm going to hold Shift Alt and select more while holding Shift Alt, and right around there. Okay, so once we have the kind of cuff seams selected, now we're going to want to do also a seam, because usually most hoodies I know of have a seam straight down the center. Obviously, I don't think I'll be able to quite do that for this hoodie, but that's okay. Somewhere around there, I think, and you won't really be able to tell. So there's another seam. Now we want a seam to connect these arms to the actual hoodie. So let's try to see what happens right here. That should be fine. Just make sure you do roughly the same spot for both sides. This part is going to be a little bit more finicky. So a lot of hoodies are attached by a seam underneath. So I'm going to select this, hold Shift, now hold Control, and select the opposite corner. And that will select all faces to that corner. Now I'm going to do the same thing in the back here. Hold Shift, Control, and that will select all those faces. So the next seams we want to add are going to be a seam probably along this back end, or at least along the arm. So let's try and add one along the arm. Hold Shift, hold Alt, select all those seams. Hold Shift, hold Alt, select all those seams. So yeah, this is a lot of seams, but I think it should look pretty cool in the end, so hopefully it won't matter. Now we're going to delete those. So we're going to hit delete, but don't select faces this time. Now we're going to go down to only faces, and that's perfect. Okay, so now we want to actually do a simulation. So first and foremost, make sure your character has a collision set on your character for your cloth to actually bump into. All you need to do that is you can head over here to Physics, Collision, which you'll see I already have, select Collision, and then for your collision settings, I generally prefer to do thickness outer all the way to 0.001 and thickness inner all the way to 0.001. And friction, I think, is already at 5, and I just leave it there because it ends up looking totally fine. So now for your actual hoodie, select your hoodie, and in that same physics, we're simply going to add cloth. And I have a preset cloth settings that I prefer. So you see I have a good cloth settings. And I will make sure in this video to take screenshots at the very end, and you can look at those screenshots and see what my settings are that I prefer. But this is all about adjustment. Find what works best for you. But hopefully mine will help as I guess an intro guide. Okay guys, so then with your hoodie still selected, you should see, since I have those settings the way I like, simulation start and a simulation end. So I generally prefer, let's select my armature over here so we can see it again. So you'll see I've got my T-pose lasting until around frame 30, and then I actually have different poses after that. So that's kind of what you want. You want your outfit to settle after the simulation is done. So right around 30 frames should get you there. So for now, let's just see how 30 frames looks for our simulation and for the end of our T-pose. And with that also, we're going to, under that in shape, we're going to enable sewing. And for collisions, we're going to want the quality to be usually around 12 is my preference. Object collisions, we're going to want the distance taken all the way down. Make sure that self collisions are enabled and that distance is taken all the way down. But I like to use massive characters because I think that the simulations look better. So I like to also then set my gravity to about 5. So then once that's done, let's make sure our simulation works. So again, make sure that your in frame is 30. If you leave it at 250, this will be a very long bake. So now I'm just going to hit bake. All right, guys, so our bake should be done. So let's just fast forward in our timeline here to frame 30 and see what happens. Okay. All right. Yes, I know. Immediately what you're probably thinking is it doesn't look that good. However, that turned out pretty good. So now what we need to do, guys, to help you see the vision a little bit better of why it turned out actually okay is make sure your hood is selected, and let's head over here and we are going to select, oh, I hate how they do their new modifiers in these Blender stuff. So we're going to search for, I think it's a subdivision surface modifier. And we are also going to search for a solidify modifier. And also we want to select this and hit shade smooth, of course. And you'll see now we can at least see our seams. And I'm just going to up that subdivision. And depending on what you want for your look, you can up that solidifier. Okay guys, so now that we've deleted that bake, my animation that I have ends at frame 70, but I want to let the clothes settle too, so I'm going to end it at frame 90 just to be on the safe side. So this will be a little bit of a longer bake. So, and I just went back into your physics and ended it at frame 90. And now let's just bake it in and see how it turns out. I had a slightly weird thing. This is just the nature of cloth sims. Slightly weird thing kind of happened on the arm where it bunched up over here. But honestly, I bet if I just rebaked it, that would probably be fine. And I don't know if it actually bothers me that much anyway. I think it kind of adds some character. And you'll see if I go into my normal shading, I just threw on a quick texture that I had on previously on my other hood. And yeah, I'll have to adjust up here a little bit because the hair overlaps. But yeah, I feel like that turned out pretty good. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video today. I hope you guys' projects are turning out good. If this video was helpful for you in any way, please consider any of these three things. Either liking the video, subscribing. Dang, what are the three things? Oh. Okay, I remember the three things. Leaving a comment, liking, or subscribing. Any of these three things will have helped my channel greatly. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. Have a good one. Bye.